Viewers, there's a move to reclaim Hindu places of worship in the name of restoring the glory of Hindu civilization. The numerous cases have been filed in court, have stirred a massive debate across the country. RSS chief, no less, has spoken up against the need to go looking for a Hindu temple under every masjid. That the movement to reclaim Ram Janambhoomi itself has served the purpose of securing nyay for a Hindu civilization that has suffered a great vandalism for centuries, beginning 1,000 years ago. Others within the Hindu fold disagree. What to make of this diversion, this digression, this divergence rather, perhaps the best word here? How do you reconcile these two sides? Let's speak to David Frawley on this spectacular occasion of the first anniversary of the consecration of the Ram Mandir. David Frawley needs no introduction. He's a Hindutva activist and a Padma awardee. He is someone who has studied the Vedas. He's a spiritualist, and he talks to us today. Thank you, Mr. Frawley, for sparing the time. There's an active temple reclamation drive on in India. Now, how do you view it? What is your view on it?
Yes. Well, my view is very simple. India has been a country full of temples for centuries. After independence, almost nothing was done to restore any of the temples, at least at a government level. And now, as India is awakening, Bharat is coming back, there's discovery, they're everywhere. And unfortunately, many mosques were built over temples. That was a political movement or a political statement of that particular time. And then also, as we excavate or as we build in various areas of the country, other temples will also be found. And many of these temples are very important historical and cultural monuments, not just simply religious statements, so they cannot be ignored. They cannot just be shut down that Ram Janambhoomi is the end of the temple reclamation. At the same time, the temple reclamation has to be done with a certain legality, care, archaeological study, communication with all the communities and individuals involved. And Hindus are not vindictive people. This is just a fact of history. Saudi removed all the Turkish mosques that were in Saudi over the centuries. So some more of these temples are bound to be found and should come back. We have Mathura, Krishna Janambhoomi, and a lot of these are legally in a condition where it is known what they were, the history is there. So it has to be a flexible set of decisions, and each monument has to be looked at differently according to its history, according to its aspiration. We can't just make it into a simple thing of no more temples or take every possible temple. It needs to have a deeper understanding, but obviously more temples are there, and over time they must be given more of a place.
Now, David Frawley, you used an interesting statement. You said this vandalism was was a political statement. Now, there are many on the left of the fence here in India who say that, look, when invaders come in, they loot. This has got nothing to do with vandalizing Hindu culture or a sense of Hindu civilization. This is just looting. It happens. Hindu kings have done it when they have gone into other territories. So let us not try to make this entire thing into reclaiming a lost civilizational sense. This is going too far. How do you respond to those people?
Well, let's look at other countries. Look at what's happened in Eastern Europe when in the 20th century, actually earlier, a lot of them took over and their independence, and they restored churches. Many churches had been turned into mosques. There was a mosque at the Parthenon in Greece that was removed. So the example of other countries is contrary to that. They said, let us claim our independence. Now, the sad thing that happened in India's case, what should have been done in 1947 is now starting almost we're even
77 years, yeah.
77 years. That delay has caused the shadow to go over this, not the fact if this was done in 1947, there would have not been any issues at that particular time. So let us put it in that broader context. Hindus are not vindictive. And India has been a country of temples, not only Hindu, but also Buddhist, Jain, Sikh sacred sites, so many for thousands of years. So they need their place, and they're part of history, and they can also be examined in that historical context. And various religious groups are also free to build their own religious institutions today. I also want to point out the example of the Swami Narayan movement, which has built glorious Hindu temples all over the world. But they didn't have to take over anybody else's land. They didn't have to disrupt any community and do so. And then I want to also mention the example of Somnath, where they're finally getting rid of a lot of the illegal structures that have been built around it, not only Somnath, but Krishna's Bet Dwaraka, because these don't need to be there. In other words, the government has not treated Hindu sites as sacred, and so there is some cleanup that needs to be done, and it can be done with the spirit of greater awareness and awakening of a civilization. And the Hindu or the Bharatiya civilization is not excluding anyone or anything.
Okay.
It's not trying to conquer the world, convert the world. So let's go forward, but in a measured manner that has respect, but does not exclude what history says.
There are many who claim precisely the opposite, that looking for a temple under every Muslim monument is an exercise fraught with implications for social cohesion, and it could lead to grievous ruptures. How do you respond to those people?
Well, first of all, it's not a question of looking for a temple under every mosque. There is a history and a tradition that there are temples under Hindu mosques, whether it's Kashi, whether it was Ram Janmabhoomi. That's simply a fact. There are also many mosques that were built later. Hindus aren't going to go after them. And in the course of building, putting in roads, things are discovered that there was a temple there. That was done more by circumstances. It wasn't simply a policy. And Hindus have always loved their temples, and they've had a history of them. So that is known to them. And we have many areas where mosques and temples have been crossing over for some time, often to the detriment of the temple. So Hindus do have a case, and mosques can also be built. So let's not just turn this into that Hindus have no rights and they should be tolerant of everyone else, but the others don't have to be respectful of them.
Another view being taken is that reclaiming drive is going to spur a sense of Hindu triumphalism. What's your take on this? I remember that Nehru, when it came down to reconstructing Somnath, said it would lead to Hindu revivalism. This is the same kind of argument that is being put forth.
Yes, but Nehru's, what Nehru was doing is actually defending himself politically, because he knew a Hindu vote might not go for him. It was not simply for India as a whole. India is a Hindu majority country. Christian majority countries give special concern for Christianity. In fact, most of the Christian countries in Europe and even the United States are quite busy promoting Christian conversion globally and defending it as a matter of foreign policy. So the Hindus are the least defensive or the least protective of their own tradition and the least respectful. Look at how Hindu temples are, of course, owned and operated by the state. Their funds take away. Look at how DMK is actually humiliating and distorting and being totally disrespectful towards Hindu temples, and yet they're quite happy to use the money for their purposes.
Has a time come to draw a Lakshman Rekha under moves to reclaim Hindu heritage? Dr. Frawley.
I think that's too soon because Hindu heritage is different in different states of India, in different communities, relative to different historical records, relative to ongoing tradition. India is a country of 1.4 billion people, largely Hindus. So how can you just create a line and deal with all those different factors? And as these Hindus are examined, there's a lot of history, archaeology that needs to be reclaimed. It's not entirely a religious matter, although that is also there.
Dr. Frawley, always a pleasure to speak to you. Thank you very much. I know there's a book that you're bringing out and hopefully we can connect and have a conversation about that book. Thank you very much.
Thank you. It's always great to be with you. And let's all move towards a greater awareness and awakening of India, Bharat, for the benefit of all humanity.
Dr. Frawley, thank you very much. Thank you.